students, welcome back to the Google Classroom of Plus One Statistics, Chapter 4, Presentation of Data. How are you children? I hope all of you are safe and fine there at home. In the previous chapter, you have learned about how the data are collected and organized. As data are generally voluminous in nature, they need to be put in a compact and presentable form. So children, this chapter deals with the presentation of data. Generally, there are three forms of presentation of data. They are textual presentation, tabular presentation, and diagrammatic presentation. Today, we would focus on the two important topics, that is textual presentation and tabular presentation. Textual presentation means the data are described within the text. Then what do you mean by tabular presentation? Tabular presentation means the data are presented in rows and columns.
Presentation of data. What do you mean by the presentation of data? It is a method by which the people organize, summarize, and communicate information using a variety of tools such as tables, graphs, and diagrams. There are generally three forms of presentation of data. First one, textual or descriptive presentation. Then next one, tabular presentation. Then third one, diagrammatic presentation or graphical method. So first one is textual presentation of data. In textual presentation, data are described within the text. So the data can be presented using paragraphs or sentences. It involves enumerating important characteristics, emphasizing significant figures, and identifying important features of data. When the quantity of data is not too large, this form of presentation is more suitable. Children, please read case 1 and case 2 from your textbook, page number 41 and 40. A serious drawback of this method of presentation is that one has to go through the complete text of presentation for comprehension. Next one is tabular presentation of data or tabulation. In a tabular presentation, data are presented in rows and columns. Rows means read horizontally and columns means read vertically. It is a systematic and logical arrangement of classified data in rows and columns. So what do you mean by tabulation? It is a systematic and logical arrangement of classified data in rows and columns. This is an example of tabulation or tabular presentation of data. Children, what is the significance of tabulation? It simplifies complex data. Unnecessary details and repetitions of data avoided in tabulation, and it facilitates comparison. It gives identity to data, and it reveals pattern within the figures which cannot be seen in the narrative form. Children, classification used in tabulation is of four kinds. They are qualitative classification, quantitative classification, temporal classification, and spatial classification. So the first one is qualitative classification. In this classification, data in a table is classified on the basis of qualitative attributes. In other words, if the data contained attributes that cannot be quantified like rural-urban population, boys and girls, etc., it can be identified as a qualitative classification of data. So children, what do you mean by qualitative classification? When a classification is done according to attributes such as social status, physical status, nationality, etc., it is called qualitative classification. Next one is quantitative classification. In quantitative classification, data is classified on the basis of quantitative attributes. That means the data are classified on the basis of characteristics which are quantitative in nature. In other words, these characteristics can be measured quantitatively. For example, age, height, production, income, etc. are quantitative characteristics. Classes are formed by assigning limits are called class limits for the values of the characteristics under consideration. For example, here mark is a quantitative attribute. Next one is temporal classification. Here data is classified according to time. Thus, when data is mentioned with respect to different time frames, we term such classification as temporal. In this classification, time becomes the classifying variable and data are categorized according to time. Time may be in hours, days, weeks, months, years, etc. Here this data is classified according to year 2016 and 2017. In this table, the classifying characteristics is sales in a year and takes values in the scale of time. The next one is spatial classification. When data is classified according to a location, it becomes a spatial classification. So, when the classification is done on the basis of a place, it is called spatial classification. The place may be a village or town, block, district, state, country, etc. So, children, look at this table. This is an example of spatial classification according to country, India and Russia.
Let us conclude today's session by recollecting all the concepts.
What do you mean by presentation of data? It is a method by which the people organize, summarize, and communicate information using a variety of tools such as tables, graphs, and diagrams. Then generally there are three forms of presentation of data. Which are they? Textual or descriptive presentation, tabular presentation, diagrammatic or graphical presentation of data. Classification used in tabulation is of four kinds. Which are they? Qualitative classification, quantitative classification, temporal classification, and spatial classification.
So children, please note that the corresponding URL, notes of the lesson and test paper are also attached along with this video. Make use of all these available resources, study well and attempt the test paper without fail. Thank you.